Welcome back to Anderson's Smoke Show. Today, I've got 5 pounds of top round that I'm gonna turn into a super easy and delicious beef jerky. So stick around, see how we do it. If you're new here, I'm here to show you that backyard barbecue can be fun and easy. So be sure to subscribe to my channel and ring that notification bell so that you can keep up with my latest content. Be sure to like the video and write me a comment. Let me know what you think. Now let's get started with this beef jerky. So for jerky, you want a nice lean cut. Today we went with some top round. You can go with a London broil, you can go with top round, bottom round, or an eye of the round cut. Throw this in the freezer for about 45 minutes prior. It's gonna firm up the meat a little bit, and it's gonna help you make those nice, accurate, and thin cuts. So let's get to cutting. All right, so we're just gonna start cutting nice and thin. We're gonna go between a 1/4 of an inch and 1/8 of an inch. We don't want it too thick. If you do like your jerky to be a little on the chewier side, you can thicken it up and go towards a 1/4 of an inch. If you like it to be a little harder, similar to like what you would find in the grocery store, and you're gonna wanna go a little bit thinner. And like I said, putting this in the freezer obviously makes it difficult to cut because it's so dang cold, but it helps you make a nice, accurate, and clean cut. I'm using my slicing knife here today. Makes things real easy with that nice straight blade. You can also go to the butcher, and in many cases, if you ask them to cut the meat like this, they can do it for you. And sometimes they already sell a cut that is already nice and thin like this. I like to do it myself. That way I can kind of control, as well as I can wait until things are on sale and I can get a pretty good deal. I think I only paid a couple bucks a pound for this top round. And really, it's the perfect cut for jerky. You can start to see here the meat starting to thaw a little bit, and it's starting to get a little spongy. That's where it gets a little bit more difficult to cut because it starts to move around with the knife. When it's nice and firm, fresh out of the freezer from that 45-minute time, you have a nice firm surface to cut, but that's okay. We're almost finished here. I already sliced up about 3 pounds. We're gonna add this other almost 3 pounds. We're gonna make about 5 to 6 pounds of jerky today. So we got all that sliced up. So for today's jerky, we're gonna make a super easy and simple teriyaki jerky. If you're not into teriyaki jerky, easily just remove the teriyaki sauce from the recipe and substitute in some soy sauce, and you're gonna get that savory jerky that you're craving. So for this recipe, I am going to start out with about 1.5 cups of teriyaki sauce. I like the Kiko Man teriyaki sauce and marinade because, as you can see, it's watered down. It's not a thick sauce so it makes it easy to work with, especially when we're marinating. So I've got my handy measuring cup here, and I'm gonna go for about 1.5 cups, like I said. The rest is just gonna be seasoning. So we're gonna start going through here. I'm gonna go with a teaspoon of ground garlic powder. I'm just gonna mix it all up in this measuring cup because we're going to put this into my food saver and do a quick marinade with it. We also want a teaspoon of onion powder. We want a teaspoon of coarse black pepper. And I'm choosing a smoked black pepper here today. We're also gonna go with a teaspoon of sea salt. And you can use really any salt you want here. I just like sea salt, that's what we typically have in our cupboards here. And because I like a sweeter jerky, I'm gonna put a couple tablespoons of honey in that. I'm really not gonna measure it, I'm just gonna squeeze right down in there. That should be good. And I brought a tablespoon out here with me. I'm just gonna stir this up a bit. That way we don't have any big clumps and all the seasonings kind of get mixed in there. You'll feel that honey on the bottom too. Getting that up off and mixed in. All right, so that should be good. Let's take the steak and this marinade into the house and we're gonna put it into one of my food saver bags, and we're gonna let this marinate for about an hour. So one thing that I love about my food saver is being able to marinate things quickly. Typically with jerky, I would put this in a Ziploc bag with the marinade refrigerated overnight up to a day, and it would be perfect. With a food saver, by putting it under pressure and removing the air, we can speed this process up to about an hour. So I've got my food saver here. I've got my 11-inch bag here, and I'm gonna make a nice long bag about like so. Run that there. I'm gonna set it to seal. We'll just set this right in here. And it'll seal the other end of the bag for me. And we got a nice seal there on the end now. Now we can take all of our meat for the jerky and start stuffing it in here. And the reason why I went nice and long like this is so that it wasn't all piled on top of each other. I want this marinade to cover as much of the surface of the meat as possible. So I'm gonna start dropping this meat in here for now. Give your marinade a stir, get up all the seasonings off the bottom if they've happened to settle. You can toss that spoon. This is where you want to be careful because you don't want to make a mess. So we're just going to pour that entire cup and a half of marinade down in there. All right, so I'm going to hit this to the moist setting on this, and you basically just take the bag and slide it in, and it'll recognize that a bag's in place, and it'll start sealing that. As you can see, we got it sealed up here. We're gonna give it about an hour to let this marinate, and we'll be back with you outside at the smoker. I pulled the jerky out of the marinade, ran it through a strainer, and threw it in this bowl. I've got a couple wire racks. I got a little bit of olive oil cooking spray that I'm just gonna spray the racks with before I put the jerky on, and it's time to start laying this out. I'm gonna lay it pretty tight from one to the next, but I do wanna leave a little bit of room so that that air can flow around the jerky. There's really no method to my madness here. I'm just trying to lay this as well as I can so that I can fit as much as possible. I may have to go inside and get another wire rack because it looks like we got quite a bit of jerky here today. Had to go in and get a third rack here. Got a lot of jerky. But like I said, we were making close to 6 pounds. To start now, as moisture pools out of the meat, it won't result in 6 pounds of jerky. We still have a few pieces left. We're gonna throw them directly on the grill grates. It's time to get these loaded up into my Camp Chef. The grill's up to 175 degrees, smoke level 10. It's time to get this jerky in. With this smaller rack, I'm going to set this directly on the bottom, right in the center. What I'm going to do, and I'll tell you, Camp Chef makes some awesome jerky racks. Unfortunately, I don't have any of them. So I'm using my racks right here with a little bit of a gap in between them. So I spread those two upper racks apart, and I'm essentially going to use them to kind of balance my wire racks, just like so. And we'll go ahead and get this closed up. At 175 degrees, I expect this jerky to be done in about 4 hours. We're gonna keep an eye on it and get it to our tenderness liking, and that's when we'll pull it. For the most part, we're pretty much done until then. We will check in periodically just to show you the progress, and so we'll see you then. I like my teriyaki jerky to have a little tack to it, so I've got some honey teriyaki sauce here that I'm gonna baste onto this jerky. And the jerky that we placed at the bottom there, I've removed it because it was pretty much done. It's exposed to a little bit more heat, but I'm just gonna go through and baste on this teriyaki glaze here. You don't need to go too thick here because it will puddle up. but just be sure to coat it. And you might find that some of the pieces are cooking faster, and if you have to remove them earlier, that's fine too. So for this jerky at 175 degrees, it's gonna take you at least a couple hours and maybe upwards to 3 or 4, depending on how thick you cut it. The best thing that you could do is just keep an eye on it until you reach that ideal tenderness for you. We're gonna check in a little bit later. We might baste it up with some additional teriyaki sauce because I like my teriyaki jerky a little bit on the sticky side. We'll see you then. All right, we're at about the 4-hour mark. About an hour ago, I pulled the small wire rack from the bottom closest to the heat source. They were done. Now it's time to get those 2 big racks out. And let me tell you what, they look real good. Check that out. We pulled the jerky out. We're gonna need about 20 minutes to cool down, stiffen up a bit, and we're gonna give it a try. The jerky is finished. We let it rest for about 20 minutes. It is time to give it a try. I cut mine a little on the thicker side because I do like that tender chewiness, so let's give it a try. That there is the perfect jerky. It's not too tough, it's not too soft, got a lot of flavor but not overpowering. Absolutely perfect. The best part is I've got about 3 pounds left of it now. I'm gonna vacuum seal that up and save it for a while. Now that's a really simple way to make some good-ass beef jerky. And if you like beef jerky as much as I do, give this recipe a try. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time at Anderson Smoke Show. Thanks again for tuning into Anderson Smoke Show. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and check out that recommended video, then my Facebook and my Instagram pages. I'll see you there.